Hello folks, welcome back to another set of hobby nightmares. I hope your week is going well. My new PC is up and running, so I'll be able to do some more streaming soon, which is going to be awesome. And also, I get to do some more hobby nightmares as I get to spend more time in the office doing what I love, and that is talking to you guys and getting your opinions on things in the hobby, and also hearing about your hobby nightmares. If you like what I do, the subscribe button is down below. We are so close to 20,000 subscribers. Have a look down below. You can see how close we are. We are literally a few dozen subscribers away. So if you can help me get there, that'd be an amazing thing. Your sub may not mean a lot to like the massive YouTubers with millions of followers out there. To a guy like me, it means a hell of a lot. So if you've been considering it, make sure you do subscribe and help me get to my target because we're almost there. So let's jump in, shall we, with Samigna or Samigina? I don't know. Hi North, my name is Samigina. I'm going to call it Gina with a hard G. Okay, but you can call me Sam. I will do, thank you. I recently came across your channel via YouTube recommendations. Thank you, YouTube. And I've been binging your stories and the hobby nightmares while hammering away at my Dark Angels for entry into 10th edition. Attached are pictures of my recently completed Belial, who was a lot of fun to paint up. Each attached image is off a different angle. Okay, let's have a little look, shall we? There's the back of Belial. Touch your face, Belial. Yeah. Looking good. Alright, yeah. He is just the most Dark Angels person ever, isn't he? Dude, are you new? Because if you're new, this is ridiculously good. It's depressingly good. You're not new, are you? Please tell me you're not new. That would be really depressing. I'll leave it up for now, though. Let's jump on with the rest of the hobby nightmare, shall we? Today is a day of self-reflection. As back in high school, I myself was the hobby nightmare. I had a short fuse and didn't take losing very well. That was 5 years ago, and whilst I'd like to leave that all behind, as I rejoin my local community in higher spirits, it's fun to sometimes look back at what a whiny little bitch I was and laugh at my past me. Today's story revolves around my first game with Mortarion. I thought I could rely on him to absolutely grand slam my way to my first victory. He wasn't asked to build, but I've never really been one for building, and hadn't even laid out a lick of paint onto him, but I was ecstatic about him nonetheless. I never painted him, barely tried before getting overwhelmed, and sold him about 2 months later when I lost interest in the army altogether. I went into the local game store and excitedly got out my Death Guard army, or Grey Guard rather, as not a single model was painted, for shame. And when I brought out Mortarion, a few folks started to divert their gazes. This was back in 8th edition. I'm not sure if he was well liked or hated back then, but I do remember people just really didn't want to deal with me playing him. I genuinely believe it had nothing to do with the unit, rather than the fact it was me playing him. At this point, I had a fair few freakouts and was that guy at the club. So nowadays, I'm convinced it was just that they didn't want to deal with me playing with this model. Okay. Sorry, taking a sip of tea there. Maybe. I will say, as a youngster, and I have always said this, and please don't get offended. If you are young and you're starting out the hobby on the channel, please don't get offended, alright? Models like Mortarion and Magnus, unless you're some preternaturally talented painter, and hobbyist, just steer clear of them. Do you know what I mean? Just steer clear. There's no need to stress yourself out. What you need to do, if you're getting into Death Guard, get some Plague Marines. If you're getting into Space Marines, get some Space Marines. Necrons, normal Necron warriors. You need to start off with the thing you're going to be painting the most. And that thing is going to be your bog standard troop choice. Always buy secular troops first. If you're Necrons, it's your Necron warriors. If you're Tyranids, it's your Hormagaunts, is it? Or Termagaunts, right? Or maybe even Gene Stealers. If Tyranids, yeah, get whatever you want. But make sure that it's something you're going to be painting quite a lot of. It's very, very, very important that you do that. Starting off with Magnus or Mortarion with a small army is a recipe for disaster. You're going to leave it. You're going to not want to do it anymore. Because it is a complicated model to do. I wouldn't even try and tackle a Mortarion now. I was going to get Baylor. In fact, I'm going to get Baylor before the end of the year. And I'm dreading it because I'm just like, oh my god, can I really be doing with this? But of course I can, because Baylor is awesome. And it's the best model Games Workshop I've ever done. Hands down, fight me in the street. Anyway, lo and behold, somebody comes in and decides they want to have a battle with me. I don't recall this guy's list, but I remember it was a Space Marine army. Despite me being that guy at this stage, this guy was happy to throw down, and I was happy to oblige. I thought to myself that I could take on his Marines pretty easily with Mortarion backing up my forces. Okay, well, we'll see how far that goes. We deployed. We did the first round, and nothing notable had happened, and everything seemed so far so good. I had the initiative, so I had the top of round 2. Mortarion was put into a decent position, but had taken some fire from the recent round from some long-range firepower. I got to my charge phase and was about set on getting Mortarion into combat. I failed the charge, however, and he actually took some pretty meaty damage from Overwatch. Right then, I was already getting into a sour mood, as I realised Mortarion was in big trouble. My opponent's turn rings out, and Mortarion is still alive but barely clinging on. He realises, however, that he forgot to deep strike his Terminators and asks if he could do so. Despite knowing it's probably the end of Mortarion, I begrudgingly said yes. His 5 Terminators came down and finished off Morty's last few wounds, killing him and sending me off the rails. I complained about how total BS that was, again, despite knowing it would happen and still letting him bring down the Terminators, and threw his wound counter, a D20, at the chair across the table. At this point, I just conceded, packed up, and left in a huff. Okay. Definitely not one of my proudest moments, but something I occasionally look back on so I don't act like it again. I've been playing one-on-one with a friend for years now, and my temper has soothed itself over the years. I will soon be rejoining the club when my first 500 points of Dark Angels are done, and wanted to share this story as a benchmark for how bad I used to get. Hope you have an awesome rest of your day. Okay, listen man, don't be too hard on yourself. That's what I would do. Give yourself some grace. I heard that the other day. You know what I mean? That phrase. Give yourself some grace here. You were young, didn't know what you were doing. And by the way, even if you're not young, and you have a bit of a temper when it comes to losing, again, give yourself some grace if you recognise that's what it is and you want to get it under control. Recognising you have a problem is the first stage in tackling that problem. So don't worry too much about it. Repetition is the friend of the person with the really bad losing temper. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Get more and more and more games in. The more games you get in, the more of the game you understand. I swear to God, most people who don't like losing, right, it comes from the fact that they think that them losing is an indictment on the way that they play the game, or an indictment on their understanding of the game. The more games you play, the more you realise 40k is just like that. Some games you will just lose, and it's not your fault. And as soon as you understand how much luck has got to do with the game, you very much rapidly stop getting annoyed at, not being good at the game. You realise most of it is the game telling you, not today, son. You know what I mean? You can make some mistakes, and you can come across some broken-ass combinations. Trust me, I've done so. But at the end of the day, if you're playing people that you know are not going to do that to you, and you're still getting annoyed, maybe it's time to get some reps in. Play more and more and more games and try and get your temper under control. Practice, practice, practice. Nobody becomes a solid hobby Chad overnight. It takes years. Years and years and years of practice and games to get yourself in there. So if you're starting off in the hobby and you're getting frustrated, do not get down on yourself. It's not an indictment on you. It's a natural human reaction to a game that is really badly written. So don't worry about it too much. Continue having fun. Bard says, Dearest North, call me Bard if you please. No problem, man. I wonder if it's that Bard. And that's why Hero Quest is so great guy. I don't know. Hopefully, that'd be cool. I've been a fan of yours for a while, and to say you've helped me through a pretty rough patch would be a severe understatement. 2023 was pretty epic. Well, pretty epic L for old Muggins here. In no particular order, I lost my girlfriend, my job, my apartment, and half of the middle finger on my dominant right hand. Another story for another time. Today, I'd like to tell you the story of how I pissed myself outside of a Warhammer store. Oh my god. You haven't had a lot of good luck, have you, my friend? First, about myself. I am an American that lived in England from the beginning of 3rd edition till about halfway through 4th. I don't know. I was trying to get pussy at the time, as you do. Yeah, it doesn't work that way, man. Sorry. I'm sorry. It's the one advantage we have as Brits over you American dudes. Your accent does shit over here. Women don't give a fuck over here. They don't. Right? You can come over here with your American accent. They can still sniff out your bullshit from a mile away. And if anything, they'll be more on edge because they're thinking, oh, this guy's going to leave. I'm just a one-night stand to this guy. Do you know what I mean? Our women are incredibly turned on mentally most of the time when it comes to dealing with dudes. It is a hard place to try and get your to try and get women. Do you know what I mean? It is a hard dojo, my friend, the UK. But if you're a British dude in the US, mate, you'll be batting them away with a shitty stick. Honestly, the minute they hear the accent, every head in the bar starts turning around. Even the men. Ooh, who's that? Right? When you've got that power over people and you've got that voice, you go, oh, hello, how are you? Right? It just disarms them straight away. There's something about the British accent and Americans. Disarmed. They're like, okay, I like this guy. He sounds like that dude from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Do you know what I mean? Especially women. I don't know what it was. You could just walk in and, you know, all of a sudden you'd be very popular. And I've had mates go over there who aren't very popular with women in the UK, and they start talking to people in bars over there, and they don't know what to do. They come across, they start sounding like fucking Hugh Grant. Like, because they've never had that attention before. Not intense female attention. Like, I like this guy, I want to talk to him. You'll have people buying you drinks. Okay? So I'm sorry about that, dude. It doesn't work the same way around. I know from experience. I've got a lot of American friends who came to the UK for university and stayed here. And it's not an easy place to be. Anyway. I know exactly when I fell in love with Warhammer, though. When my father brought me to my first game store. It was the sweaty summer of 1996 in Lincoln, Nebraska. The sights, the sounds, the smells, though not all pleasant, were invigorating. Then I saw it. The OG Hive Tyrant with Barbed Strangler. I had never seen something so fucking cool in all my life. As a 6-year-old, my mind melted and it kindled a lifelong love for the grim and the dark. Years pass. Parents divorce. Mum meets some fucking cockney on AOL. I told you, man. I told you. The accent, dude. The accent. She speaks to him a few times on AOL, you know what I mean? Speaks to him on the phone. She's smitten. She's done, right? She takes my brother and I to live in New Jersey, England. In the New Jersey, of England. Essex. Yeah, it is. All of a sudden, I'm wearing a suit to school every day. I look like a British child, and even dress like one. I open my mouth, though, and dozens of eyes just stare at me. I spoke the language, sure, but I never could be another face in the crowd. Boys bullied me, and girls gave me attention I didn't know what to do with yet. Yeah, younger kids, I would say, yeah, that is true. That is true. Women who are older will sniff you out and be like, this guy's not going to stick around, not really my thing, you know what I mean? And they hear American accents all the time on telly, so they're not that impressed. Whereas with kids, anything new is going to get attention. From what I've noticed. And literally anything new will get attention. You know what I mean? I'm going to take a quick sip of tea before I carry on. Alright. Let's get into it, shall we? People would listen to me, but never hear me over my accent. They'd cock their heads, look confused, and say, what are you doing here? If I had a 9-bob note every time I had to condense my life story into about 20 seconds, anytime I did something as innocuous as buying a 10-pack of fags, I'd be a very rich and very queer person. Jesus Christ, dude. Anyway, feeling out of place in the most extreme way, you might find it no surprise that I came across a Games Workshop. Alas, I have a unique distinction of being poor, or, as the ever taciturn British would call it, being working class, in 7 separate time zones. I didn't have pocket money to go and buy Warhammer, but the staff there were always very friendly, amenable to my requests, and a penniless Yank child gawking at the beautifully painted minis and scenery. Take a sip of that lovely Yorkshire tea. Okay. Though my stepfather was a real piece of work, a Millwall supporter, if that tells you anything, he did buy my brother and I the iconic 3rd edition starter box. I mean, Millwall supporter, yeah, I mean, they got a bad rep. I'm more thinking of, like, you know, EastEnder Cockney. Alright, mate, oh, fucking hell, mate, fucking hell. I'm so Cockney, it's fucking painful. You know, that kind of person. They literally look like they're in pain. They're that Cockney. Oh, fucking hell. You know, that kind of thing. Fucking hell, mate, fucking... You know, yeah, Jesus Christ, alright. Alright, mate, yeah, alright. Oh, you're scarce, sir. You're scarce, sir. Yeah, you come down to rob things, yeah? No, mate. The only time I've ever been kind of mugged, or at least attempted mugging, was in Brixton, South London. Go fuck yourself. I've never happened in Liverpool to me. Not once. All right? Gotten into plenty of fights, but I've never been robbed. That's a stereotype that's not fucking real, and I keep saying it all the time. Scousers have a reputation for being robbers. The only time me or anyone I know has been robbed is in London. Alright? So maybe look to your own backyard before you start casting aspersions over other people. And you know me, not the biggest fan of Liverpool either, but there we go. I'll call it as I see it. Anyway, I got Black Templars. And my... How did I just say that? I got Black Templars. I'm such a retard, man. I got Black Templars. My devilishly sadistic younger brother got Dark Eldar. We never really played the official rules. More of a narrative blow 'em up as young boys are wont to do. We didn't have a quarter of the requisite motor skills to paint our minis either. But damn it, we painted them anyway. Warhammer was a comforting port in a fractious childhood. That sucks, man. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry you had to go through that. More years pass. Things get even more fractious. Breakups happen again, and now, all of a sudden, I'm back in America. I spend a semester learning how truly fucked the American public school system is, and when my scumbag stepdad came crawling back to my mother from across the Atlantic, I fucked off to Job Corps. Quick aside about Job Corps. People believe it's a training program for the at-risk youth of America. They'd be half right. It's half trade school, half glorified juvenile detention centre. I've never heard of it. Never heard of Job Corps. No, never heard of it. A vacuum cleaner for disaffected, criminal and insane teenagers, run by the same enterprising folks that brought you private prisons. My particular Job Corps was fashioned out of the haunted, quite literally, I'm not joking, ruins of an abandoned mental hospital. Again, another story for another time. All this is to say, it set the tone for my young adult life onwards. Living in that creepy gateway to hell led me, 16 years later, to pissing myself outside of a Warhammer store this past autumn. Oh my god, I thought this was when you were a kid. Oh no. This was after my accident, but before the rest of my life fell apart. I was still in a stint at this point. The doctors were still optimistic they could save my finger, but I was miserable in a way that I could hardly articulate. Have you ever lost the use of your dominant hand for a couple of months? I never felt clean. My girlfriend helped me clean myself, and that was humiliating, so I showered as little as I could to get away with it. I couldn't play guitar, I couldn't play with my 3D printer, I wouldn't play video games. Goodbye, right trigger button 2. Sex was out of the question because of a multitude of reasons, about half my fault. Our relationship was circling the drain at that point. I don't want to sound like a crybaby, but I have a bum left hand too. Wanks were Herculean tasks. Dude, you should have got yourself like one of them fleshlight things. Job done. I assume so. I'm not. No, I don't have one. I know that's where your mind's going, watching this fucking video. No, I don't. I just assumed that would be a better way. You're not getting as much torque on your hand. You know what I mean? Torque on your hand? What am I talking about? Look what you've reduced me to. Jesus, I said I'd do 5 days of Hobby Nightmares this week, but my brain's melting. Anyway, trying to get my gimpy left hand to form a fist worthy of fucking was probably hilarious to watch, but at this time, I felt like a wretched little slug. About the only thing I could do was watch YouTube. I don't know why I got into bat reps, but it's because my D&D campaign was stillborn. I whiled away many hours avoiding difficult conversations with my girlfriend, printing miniatures for a game I knew no one would ever play with me. A 3D printed pile of shame is a savagely grotesque and depressing thing, but mine was something I had dwindling hope for. The accident, though, was the final nail in the coffin. Deeply depressed, I longed to one day finish a project. Once more, I longed for the company of people who would paint their own models. I longed for companionship, period. Camaraderie. I needed people I could share my troubles with, and who'd share theirs with me. In a masculine way, of course. Over a shared hobby in something nerdy like miniature wargaming. I resolved to buy into 10th edition. Consider another tea break. Okay, I will have one. 1 sec. Alright. The hand clinic in central Kentucky I frequented was a stone's throw away from a friendly neighbourhood gaming store. They were great, although more on the MTG spectrum, Magic the Gathering. They had a copy of the Leviathan box set there, and I snapped up with half of a single hand and got to really daydreaming about how they'd be painted eventually. On the topic of Games Workshop in general, I have a deep ambivalence to it. It's an illustrative example of a big difference between England and America. Americans do not have the anal retentive fixation on class that British people do. Americans generally consider flaunting their mean gauche. Sure, show the world you're a fucking gazillionaire, but it better come with the implicit lie that you can also be a gazillionaire. Okay, certain British people, however, with their 3-story house and their Range Rover, will begrudgingly admit that they're better than you. Being poor is less of a fact of life and more of a moral failing. You're common. You should know your place. Don't you get too big for your boots, sunshine. Nothing brings this into sharper relief for me than Games Workshop. Say what you will, but if Americans ran Games Workshop, and let us hope they never do, collecting Space Marines would be as simple as buying a Happy Meal. Not so with Games Workshop as it is. In fact, it's actively antagonistic to people who have to check the price before buying something. You call it the Apple of hobby stores, but I think I have a more apt analogy. It's the Marks and Spencer of hobby stores. Buying something in that big black, red and yellow bag has prestige attached to it, at least for other nerds. Yeah, mate, it doesn't for normal people. You walk around with your Games Workshop bag, then gonna go nerd all the time. For the exorbitant price of the merchandise in that 10-gallon bag, we get to walk down the high street looking proper posh in our own nerdy way. But let's be honest, only a complete ponce buys his entire army at Games Workshop. It makes me think of something of a man named Vince Noir once said. She goes to Marks for her bits, she doesn't get a main shop there. No one does. Yeah. That's something quite... Yeah. You go to Marks and Spencer for bits and bobs. That is true. That is true. I do that. Yeah, 1 or 2 things I really like from Marks and Spencer, I'll get from Marks and Spencer. Everything else, no. Far too expensive. Alright. So that leaves me with the fateful autumn day at the Warhammer store. I don't like giving Games Workshop money directly, but at the same time, I want this store to exist. it's not the fault of the sad man running it that he works for a corporation that flagrantly hates poor people. I figured I'd pop in for my bits and maybe keep the lights on. There was not a lot of stuff I was interested in though, even less so for the prices that they were asking. But I did find a box of boarding action terrain. I was thinking I might get into Kill Team 2, and I had bought the Krieg/Commando intro set, but of course, no one had the Into the Dark terrain in Kill Team size. Not even the Warhammer store. They did have the $220 box though. I grumbled internally, I rationalised with myself, making myself fear missing out as I tend to do. You know, well, I'll have 2 sets for Kill Team instead of 1, I thought to myself. We were mid-transaction when convincing myself to spend so much on terrain fell out of my head. I was in trouble. The trouble is, I'm a diabetic. If you don't know, diabetes makes you thirsty. The hilarious part about diabetes is, it also makes your bladder a third smaller. Oh no. I went from fine to about to piss myself in my tight khaki-coloured chinos in about 3 seconds. Do you have a bathroom? I asked. I knew the answer before he said it. The slightly pensive expression he said gave it all away. As he put a metal Warhammer coin I didn't ask for or want in my pretty 10-gallon bag, he said, no, sorry, we don't have a public restroom. Please? I pleaded, seeing yellow. I'm sorry. I looked at the bag, from which I dropped a quarter of my paycheck as if to say, I spent all this money and you're still gonna fuck me like this? I grabbed it and headed out. I was in so much pain trying to hold my bladder, I didn't have the brain power to feel slighted. The clock was ticking. I threw the Space Hulk in my trunk and began to speed walk. Oh no. Dude, you should have insisted. You should have said, look man, I'm about to wee myself. I'm either gonna do it in the window there, in front of your store. I'm gonna do it in your... I know you've got a bathroom, you work here, right? I'm either gonna do it in there in private, or in there in public outside your store. Please, do me a solid. Let me use your thing. I'm about to pee myself. There's no man on earth who would say no to that, right? Literally no. Like, I was always really, like, pensive about anybody going behind, you know, backstage at my Games Workshop store. But if you came to me with that earnest of a plea, fuck me, mate. I'd be throwing you in there. Like, go on, no problem. You know, just go and wee. It's fine. You know? Especially if I knew it was like a genuine plea and you weren't some like drug addict who's gonna shoot up in my bathroom. That did happen once, wasn't very nice. As you well know, Americans do not have high streets. We have monstrosities called strip malls. Warhammer was on the furthest extreme end of a 12-shop front strip mall. At the other end, thousands of feet away and across the street, was a Kroger. My last resort. I speed walked, turning rapidly into a deranged waddle. Past 12 signs that either said closed or no public restroom. I'm a little ashamed to admit that I peed myself as an adult, especially now in my 30s, much more frequently than I'd like though. I've never peed myself speed walking into a Kroger before. I now ran, pretty actively leaking urine down my pants to the other end of this big fucking grocery store. I swear this bitch had a full-size Starbucks in it, not some bullshit kiosk, no sir. I practically knocked over a display of stupid mugs with stupid mermaids on them to get to the bathroom behind it. I had about an eighth of a tank left to drain and a long time to think in a bathroom stall as I waited for my pants to look less pissed in. I thought to myself, I'll never buy shit from those people again, in terms of Games Workshop, but that wasn't true. I bought the Night Lord's Omnibus a few weeks back. I couldn't stay mad at the guy, not really. Does he work for a company that should have him ritualistically sodomized to death for 0.25% for the next set quarterly? Sure, but somebody has to. He even hosts Combat Patrol and Kill Team games in the store, and though I haven't participated in any yet, I'm glad they're there. Who knows, there might be a 6-year-old or two for which this Warhammer store will be their first game store. Hopefully seeing a Screamer killer and having their minds melted like mine was. That's what's really great about playing Warhammer. It really is a beautiful thing before cynicism sets in and pants get pissed in. Love, the chaotic evil bard. P.S. Just wanted to thank you again. You've really helped this guy keep his sense of humour in dark times. You're doing the Lord's work, North. Cheers, man. Yeah, I get what you mean. Like, it's not their fault, but still, I'm really on your side there. There is no reason why he shouldn't let you use the restroom if you're obviously about to piss yourself, right? You know? Like, I do it with students. You develop a sixth sense for, you know, real, shall we say, how do I put it? Real emergencies, like when somebody says, no, I really need to go to the toilet. You start to develop a sixth sense of what it looks like. And you get the people who are trying to, like, bullshit you, you know? It happens in school, too. Like I've said it before, say it again. Like, most kids in my class, they're not allowed to walk around in school hours, right? They get time before lessons and a grace period before lessons to go to the toilet, right? You can turn up to my lessons 10 minutes late. I don't mind. If you just say, I was in the toilet, sorry, because I know there's a queue. It's fine, you know what I mean? So if you there's no excuse. If during the lesson they're like, oh, I need to go to the toilet, no, you don't. You need to go wandering the halls to find your mates is what you want to do. So you're sitting where you are, right? But you do learn the people who take the piss, quite literally, right? And the people who actively actually, you know, have a medical condition or, you know, anything like that. Normally they come to you at the start of the lesson, they say, look, you know, I've got this medical condition. Or they have like a note saying, you know, I need to go to, let him go to the toilet whenever he wants, that kind of a thing. And also you learn like body language and stuff. If somebody really is distressed and is like, listen, I really need to go to the toilet, that's fine. You let them go. You know what I mean? But there are a multitude of people coming into games workshops and kids in schools too, who just want to take the piss. Literally, right? They want to leave the class and go walking around school, tapping on windows and annoying other people's classes. That's what they want to do. Right? Happens all the time, and you get into big trouble as a teacher. It is a horrible, horrible, horrible grey area, and it shouldn't be. At Games Workshop, you're dealing with adults most of the time, so it's a lot easier to tell if they're taking the piss or not. But if they walk in and they're like you did, dude, just use the toilet, no problem. I don't see what the issue was there for him. You know, that is a job's worth, mate. That is a job's worth. Okay, if you just dropped $200 on some models and you're a normal looking bloke and you're just dying for a wee, just use my fucking toilet. It's fine, right? I'll stand nearby, and if you're in there for more than 5 minutes, I'm kicking the door in to see if you're shooting up or not. Because it's not a public restroom, right? I can do what I want, but you can use it to have a wee, no problem. Just in and out. Go and do what you need to do, right? He was in the wrong there, not you, is what I'm trying to say. You seem pretty hard on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Anyway, Wayne says, hi, mate. Feel free to call me Wayne if you like. I have done. Just thought I'd share a fairly recent hobby nightmare with you. So to start with, I don't live too far from you, or at least where you're from originally. I'm at the correct end of the M62, so not too far, right? And I'm a blue before you ask. Good lad, good lad. Gonna have a little sip of tea here. By blue, he means Evertonian. And Everton play Liverpool this evening. And I'm dreading it because, you know, we might get our shit pushed in. But, you know, I'm used to it by now. Please forgive me. I'm not much of a writer, so feel free to grab a drink when you like. Right. A little bit about me. I was into the hobby when I was younger, but left it behind for a long time when I started a family with my now ex-partner. I was working at an infamous prison in the northwest. Well, it had a massive effect on me and my mental health, and the strain caused the breakup of our relationship. And to be fair though, that was for the best because she was a massive narcissist, I realise now. 5 years ago, about a year after I broke up with my ex, I met a new lady who has been amazing to me and accepts who I am. About 2 years into my new relationship, my mental health tanked, and I suffered from severe PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, with my job and the fallout from my ex stopping me from seeing my son and daughter. To help with this, I got back into the hobby initially, just painting and modelling to pass time, as I spent about 6 months on the sick. But as time progressed, I got into playing the game again, joining a local club where I could go along and meet new people. It also helped me to get out of my own head and the dark thoughts that lived there. Yeah, that is true. And by the way, PTSD can kind of come from anything. I've known guys who've been treated for PTSD from bad breakups. You don't have to be in the army or in the prison system or a police officer or, be seeing some shit to have PTSD to different varying levels, right? It's not a weakness, dude. Go and get some help. All right? I've been going along to this club for a while now, and I've met a few decent people along the way. Not the sort of people I'd have a drink with, but decent folks all the same. This one time, though, I went along to play a guy whom I'd spoken to briefly at the club, and a bit more on the club's Discord server. I'm going to call him Gary. There's a reason for the name, which I'll go into at the end of my story. Anyway, I rocked up for a 2,000 point game against Gary using my knights. Gary opened his case and started to pull his marines out, and I noticed Gary's army was covered in Christian iconography, though they were well painted enough. Gary noticed me looking at them and asked me what religion I was. I told him the truth. I'm a former Catholic, but now I'm an atheist. Turns out, telling Gary this was a mistake. Yeah, in the business, we call this foreshadowing. That's hilarious. He told me that, in his opinion, it's impossible to be an atheist, and that everyone inherently knows that God exists. I tried to tell him I'm not here for a theological debate. I just wanted to play a game of toy soldiers, but he wouldn't let up, pulling every apologetic trick he could think of, asking me ridiculous questions about the nature of truth, and telling me about the impossibility of a godless world. He wasn't even setting up his models. He just became a frothing at the mouth zealot, and acting like he was at the pulpit or something. I was losing interest in playing him at all, but had a final go and asked him whether we were going to play or not, and he answered, well, I don't think I'm going to play somebody whose beliefs are not natural or rational. With that, I just packed up. I may or may not have told him to fuck off and left. Dude, well, you did the right thing. You did the right thing. Again, adjudicate who is a part of your hobby space and who isn't, okay? Just don't let it sour the entire hobby for you. Guys like this are bloody rare. Very rare. So don't let it ruin things for you, alright? Please. I got a message a few days later from the club organiser asking me whether I had swore at the club and telling me that there are kids who go there and foul language is unacceptable. With that, I've not been back, nor do I think I'd be welcome at the club, to be honest with you. Gary is the real name of a well-known Christian troll. Sorry if my tale of woe is a bit of a rambling mate. Cheers, Wayne. Mate, okay. What you need to do, if not too much time has passed, what you need to do is get onto that club owner and explain to him what had happened. That's what you need to do. Explain. Stand up for yourself. Tell your part of the story, if too much time has not gone past. And when you've done that, see what he comes back with. If he comes back and he's apologetic and says, okay, I recognise that, but, please try not to swear in the store, then I'd be like, yeah, fine. I will from now on. I'll just steer clear of that guy, no problem. And then go back, right? The minute other mentalists start coming into the group, it's not for you, leave and never come back. But at least give it another go, is what I'm trying to say. If too much time has passed, then fair enough, you're not going to go back to that place ever again. But make sure that you don't give up on the gaming side of the hobby. That is very, very, very rare. What you've come across there is an albatross, my friend. That is what you've come across. Alright? So please, try not to give it too much of a, how do I put it? A dark spin on your hobby. Try not to do that. These are very, very, very rare people. Especially in our hobby. Okay? Alright. I love you a long time. I will speak to you tomorrow for some more. Yet more hobby nightmares. Oh my god, you're getting 5 this week. You lucky, lucky, lucky people. I love you a long time. Please, please, please take care of yourselves in the 24 hours before I speak to you again. I love you all. And I'll see you then. Have a good one. Bye now.